antidote. There is no antidote. There is no antidote. There is no antidote. There is no antidote.
Hey, Peculiars! I was just diving in the deep because this is going to be the type of show where you are going to go deep. I mean, hey, we have got two amazing authors who are both going to be here at the same time. And let's face it, you can't be that surprised that I have a full body cat suit like this, right? I mean, Davey's probably not surprised. Are you surprised, Davey?
No, of course not. Of course not. And I may have put together a very silly little sketch for this video, and you can't be surprised by that, can you?
No. I hope it has Will we see Kenobi?
It might have my four-legged friend in it, yes.
I do love that. Well, it is a great evening to be on Peculiar Book Club because I am going to I'm going to swim out of you after we do our announcements today so that this show can be hosted by someone I know you all love and enjoy, Mary Roach hosting Daniel Kraus. Ta-da!
Welcome.
It is so good to have you. Everyone has been so excited about the show. Mary, obviously, it's wonderful to have you back. Everybody loves you, and you basically are the part of the reason why the Peculiar Book Club exists, because you made me. I tell everybody you made me do this.
I did.
It was so
I did. I insisted. I insisted.
You did. And Daniel, we have been so looking for. I mean, I know your work. I've known your work from other things you've worked on, in Shape of Water in particular. And we interviewed you, I think, when the book came out on our podcast. But we have been waiting for this all year. So this is really exciting. And of course, there's as we said, there's synergy, right? We've got GULP. We've got being swallowed by a whale. It's hard to get better than that. And Whalefall is just such. I love the cover because I feel like if I had imagined or dreamed up a cover, it would be this cover. Sadie Simmons is talking. She says, we're so excited to meet Daniel, and everybody's been looking forward to this, and they've heard so much about it. So there's lots and lots of talk. People have been really, oh, hell yeah, we love Mary, Sadie says.
Why, thank you.
I know tonight we also have Claudia Rapp on board with us, and she translated Daniel's book into German. And I think Kevin Tones has finally made it on with us too. So it's really great to see everybody. I would like us, before we get too ahead of ourselves, I'm going to do the announcements and then I'm going to turn the show over to Mary. But Daniel, I have to just ask that perennial question. What gave you the idea for being swallowed by a whale?
A video. There was a viral video a few years ago of someone. There's a few of these out there, which is scary, but a couple kayakers actually landing in the mouth of a humpback whale.
Yeah.
And so immediately the night that I heard about it, I hadn't even seen it. Someone told me about it. It was almost like an urban legend at that point. And I had the idea immediately. And then the very next morning, emailed Mary to see if
This is true.
To see if she thought if she had ever talked to anyone who said that it was biologically possible.
Right.
And she wrote back and said,
yeah.
This is the best. This is the best kind of Peculiar Book Club show. Frankly, this is just, you guys belong here. I just want to say. So, so I'm going to go ahead and start us off with some announcements and just a few things to cover with the Peculiars, and then I'm going to bounce out. Actually, I'm going to swim out. I'm going to surface, I guess, and I'm going to let you guys take the show ahead. And we have so many questions that I'm sure are already queuing up. I've seen the chat kind of just move along here. So, Davey, could you load us our announcements? Thank you. First of all, I know that there's a lot of little icons above our announcement slide. Somehow the Peculiar Book Club has infiltrated like all social media everywhere. So the announcements are there. You can get in touch with us in all different kinds of ways. For tonight's show, you'll want to be on the live chat, the live comments, so that you can actually participate live with the conversation. And we'll pull your comments over. Davey will pull your comments over as you're saying things as well. So next up, Peculiar newsletter. If you are here, you received the link through our Peculiar newsletter. If you end up watching the show at a later date or from another link, please sign up today because this is how we get the information out to you. It's also how we announce our next season. So it just so happens that I just finalized the season for next year. So that will be coming to the newsletter very soon. Next up is... Oh yes, Patreons. We do love our Patreons and VIPs. This is a VIP show, so all of you are VIPs. Mwah, I love you. This is why the lights are on. Okay, we're going to do a drink cocktail. The cocktail was very exciting for tonight, but it's also a video. Davey, can you play it with music? I don't know if you can or not. Oh, maybe. Maybe you can.
Okay, let's get it back with music.
All right, we'll pull it back up. The cocktail it's scintillating, frankly. It was so involved, and I confess I did not get my ice cubes to freeze properly, so
No,
I don't have
it
one.
won't let me share audio because it's not a Chrome window.
Oh no!
But we
Okay.
still have the fun video.
Okay, we do have the fun video. So it's blue, and it has blue Caraca, has all other kinds of things, and it says, because the title that won was Between the Diver and the Deep Blue Sea. That was the title that won. There were some other fun ones.
I can describe the music. It's a very bassy, jazzy. I'm hearing it in my headphones right now, but
Na, 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 na. The ice cubes are made with activated charcoal, and basically they turn the blue water dark, almost black by the time you're finished drinking the drink, which just said all the things about the book, I think. So yes, it was a splendid, and it tastes really good too. So I hope you guys will give it a try. And I know we have the YouTube channel. You guys, please do subscribe. We are like 3 people away from actually breaking the 1,000 subscribers, which then opens up the metrics to us. We can't actually see the metrics until after we have over 1,000 subscribers. Who knows why? But most exciting, we have a podcast coming up with Davey, and it is going to be amazing.
now I know I said July 18th, but I can announce that me and Darren have both watched the movie. We just not found time to sit down together. But we always find a book theme or movie themed around a book we read. So in honor of your book, Whalefall, there was no other movie choice. I mean, we had to do Moby Dick. But we went back. We went old school, 1950s style. Gregory Peck, who, a little spoiled trivia, he did not think he was right for that part.
Oh.
He was not. Yeah, he thought he was too young to be playing Ahab. But I don't know. Do you think Moby Dick hits some of the themes in your book, Whalefall? Do you think we're on the right track there?
Well, it definitely has a whale in it.
There we go. All right, check. We got that one taken care of.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it. It's I don't think there's ever been a good Moby Dick movie or TV show.
Nothing ever lives up to the book, does it?
Yeah.
But I always say that I've seen all the adaptations, and the whales are always really good. I love the whale in the Gregory Peck movie. The rest of it, I don't care for, but the whale's fantastic. Yeah.
I've always been on Team Whale anyway, really.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I wrote that down in my notes as I was watching that. I was like, I'm not rooting for these sailors at all. They do talk a little bit about the godliness of Moby Dick, right? This being beyond. So maybe a little connection there.
There's some really good lines in the book that just never actually make it in the movie because they're too long and weird. But Kat says she made many charcoal, water, and prune juice ice cubes. She's like, if I had so many, if only she could share. But so that's Kat's creation, your very own book cocktail. Thank you so much for being our author here tonight and for this amazing show. Mary, I am going to turn this show over to you, which means I have to swim away. Now, I gotta go look for some stuff in the water. So
bye, Brandy. Lovely to see you. Okay. I'm sorry I don't have any black skin tight neoprene latex wear to be wearing today. But the best thing about, I shouldn't say the best thing, but the one thing that is really exciting for me about doing this episode of Peculiar Book Club is that I reread the book, and I was going to just kind of I gotta remember like who the basic characters. But I completely got pulled in again and finished it this morning, and it's just such an incredible book. I mean, it's on so many levels. I don't want to. Well, I don't want to give anything away. But let's start. We were talking about before we went to the cocktail, I guess. The idea for it and the video,
Mhm.
and you contacted me, and which I love because I actually had a whole chapter
Yep.
on it's for it was for this book Gulp, and I had a chapter on the human stomach and is it possible to escape? And a lot of it had to do with other species, but there, in fact, was this story which I know you're familiar with. Bartley, I think his name was
Bartlett, I think.
Bartlett.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And this was in the New York Times, wasn't it? It was, and this story that apparently this guy, it was a whaling ship, and they brought the whale up, and the guy was still alive, and I mean that was
And he had lost all his hair, and his skin was bleached white. There's a lot of great details. Yeah.
there's a lot of great details, and there was the best one though. The same year, 1896 or 4, I forget. A story about also in the New York Times about a shark, a very large shark. They bring it up, and they find inside a guy, this guy who's endeavoring to get out using a grindstone and a knife, which he apparently had died on the ship. They threw him overboard with those tools in the bag so that he would go to the bottom, and that he was alive and working his way out using tools, which was a lot closer to the situation in Whalefall. But that was and somebody went through and completely debunked both of these.
Yeah,
But
it's ridiculous.
yeah, and then this was the New York Times. But anyway, that got me interested. I got in touch with Phil Clapham, who's a whale biologist, and then so I had the chapter, and then you heard about the guy who basically got gummed by a whale, and I was just so excited to hear that you were gonna like take it from that point and write a novel, because how much better is a novel than a chapter in a nonfiction book?
Well, you'd have to wait for a long time for someone to actually get swallowed. I mean, as Whalefall makes clear, it's possible. It really is possible.
With a certain kind of whale, only with a sperm whale, yeah.
Yeah, and people will often ask me, how did I come up with the main character? And really, it was the biology of the whale that sort of told me who the characters were going to be. Because one of the first things I learned from Phil, was one of my 3 major whale experts, was that you'd have to be pretty skinny, particularly if you had oxygen tanks. And so that's what first made me think maybe it's a kid, someone who's just sort of small, skinny in a way that only like teenagers are. And then that led, okay, if the kid has a major relationship, it's probably maybe with his parent. And so it's funny how the actual biology dictated kind of who the characters were.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, because they wouldn't work with a baleen whale. It wouldn't work with, and it was just, and I love how the biology informs the whole plot, because there's a forestomach which doesn't have acid. Then he goes on to the second stomach, which does have acid. So he's got the acid, and like this poor kid. I mean, the amount of god awful things that happened to him, which is you're so good at describing god awful, gory things in a beautiful literary way.
I mean, that's always been since my first book. That's kind of what I've been interested in, is writing beautifully about the grotesque. And so this, I think it's one of the things that lit my head on fire that night. I had the idea, was just that this felt like everything, all of that at once, because it was inherently gross. But as we were speaking of earlier, there's something about a whale that's inherently sort of unfathomable and beautiful and godlike even. So to be able to combine those together was instantly intriguing to me.
Yeah, and not just gore, but violent. I mean, the stomach. Whales don't chew their food. They've got the contractions, so you have these violent contractions. But I also just think and this is something that struck me more reading it the second time. Just the beauty of that. It's in essence a father and son relationship, and you have this larger than life dad and this son who can't live up, and it's just this I'm not a big I tend to read books on a very simplistic plot level, but the metaphor for, you know, trying for somebody being just swallowed by something bigger, trying to escape, it just worked beautifully
Yeah.
on so many levels, you know. First there's the beauty of your language, and the way you describe these in so much detail, what's going on moment by moment, and it is this, you know, time and you know, and the way the chapters are
hmm
written, you know, with the dwindling amount of air that he's got in the tank, just the drama of it is just, it's just an amazing book. Somebody wants to see a squid beak. I see here,
Well, I can help you with that.
Leanne. Yeah,
Now this is not a very big one, but here is one. Let me try to get that against a
yeah,
white wall or something. Yeah, you can kind of see it there.
yeah.
So,
It does. Uh-huh.
so in the book, essentially what he does is he tears off this bottom jaw, and then it's this top jaw. You can see how you could hold that and dig with it, or it's almost like a little raptor claw at that point. And
Yeah,
if you can imagine the bottom jaw not being there, you can imagine how it could, you know, it could jam into your hand like it does to him, you know,
yeah.
however, wherever you want to imagine it was jammed in there.
Yeah, I love the just the creativity of the way he was able to use the few things that he has. I mean, the squid, also the bioluminescence, because you
Right.
had to get around the problem of how does he see? You know, how can he see what he's doing inside these
Yeah.
various bits of anatomy? You know, I mean, that must have been fun, kind of like, you know, The Martian with, you know,
Yeah. I was always surprised in those early conversations with the scientists how they would solve the problems that I hadn't even had time to bring up to them yet. Like I knew that I was gonna have to, like, maybe he had a headlamp on or something. But before I'd even get to that question, they would say, "Oh, by the way, you can see because there's all these bioluminescent creatures." I'm like, "Oh, okay, well,
that's amazing. Yeah,
and they kept doing that really, before I could get to the point where I was wondering what could be in the stomachs that he could grab. They're like, "Well, there's hundreds or thousands of squid beaks in there." So I was like, "All right, well, there's a tool for me." It was
yeah,
unusual in the sense that typically when you're plotting a novel, if you are someone who plots it, and in sort of a real time book, you kind of have to be. Uh, you generally, you plot it out. But with this book, I couldn't plot thing one without spending a few months with these experts because I don't know what is even possible in there. And
yeah.
so, really, what is possible? We covered pretty much everything. Like, there's almost nothing you could do inside of whale that's not in the book because your options are so
Yeah,
radical.
you had, like, you know, ulcers on the side, and you've got the larynx, and I mean, like, the way that he gets footholds, the way, you know, the size of the gullet, and the, you know, and also the responses of the whale, you know, to pain, you know, that it dives, you know, which was a plot point that I don't want to give away, but the, you know, just the behavior and that amazing, what's it called, a marguerite, where other
Yeah,
whales
yeah, Marguerite formation. Yeah,
formation, the other whales come around and sort of protect an
yeah.
ailing whale. Yeah, just it must have been really an amazing.
It was, and it was one of those rare books where everything I would learn would seem to feed perfectly into the plot and feed perfectly into the larger metaphors. It's like, what does a whale do when it's in danger? Well, maybe it dives, and what happens when a whale is being attacked and is about to be killed? The whale's family, and it's just like everything fed into the
Yes.
metaphor. Like, I couldn't turn around without
Yeah.
the metaphor becoming further girded by
Yeah.
science. And I think that's when you've tripped upon a really powerful metaphor. Is when,
Yeah.
like, you
It,
can't avoid it in the writing anymore. It just comes at you
exactly.
with every
Exactly.
paragraph.
If I notice the metaphor, that's a powerful metaphor.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Because I'm a lunkhead when it comes to I'm very literal. But it
Mhm.
was, yeah. There's Anthro Girl 2. Can you explain your process for writing the book? You started with an idea, excuse me, then spent all the time researching before writing, or did you have some idea of what you wanted to happen before?
We
Right.
also, while we're talking structure, we also had a question from Sarika Davies that was pretty much on the same track there. So asking about the flashbacks and the thriller structure and the way you kind of structured the two stories.
Okay. So
Thanks,
sort of as I was saying, I really had nothing. Usually I do have some plot ideas, some structure ideas, and this I had nothing. I didn't know what was possible. I didn't know how big a stomach was. I couldn't plot anything. I wanted someone to get swallowed and then have a chance of getting out, and that was it. So really, in this case, the research dictated everything, every plot move, every plot twist, and so all the research, most of the research was upfront. It was very heavy front loaded with just lots of interviews because there's not really books on this stuff. There's some whale books, but not really about this. And then the other question was sort of the flashback structure, I think was the question.
Yeah, and sort of the two kind of dueling stories.
Right. That was a combination. I mean, I knew I wanted to start the story very linearly. Like I wanted to start at the start. I wanted to start when he got to the beach and not be overly clever about it and just go, because I thought the premise was strong enough that I didn't need to outthink it. Part of it, I think, was early on I had the idea of the chapter titles being the PSI, so more or less the air he's breathing going down. And once I stumbled upon the idea, I liked it so much that I wanted to keep seeing it. So I said, I want the audience to constantly be aware of how much air he doesn't have left. And so maybe I should do a lot of chapter breaks. And that made me think, well, if I'm doing a lot of chapter breaks, maybe the chapters are really small, and I've never really written really small chapters before. And if I'm doing really small chapters, that gives me a lot of opportunity to do small flashbacks insteed of sort of extended flashbacks, which I'd done before. So again, it was just sort of everything was telling me to try this sort of almost machine gun fire, kind of rapid back and forth in little bite-sized bits. And that, so it was a function of, it came from, just like the characters came from the size of a whale throat, the structure came from the idea of wanting to see those chapter headings. So sometimes very prosaic or uninteresting kind of mechanical decisions end up creating or pushing you to create things that seem really quite artful once you actually start exercising them.
Yeah. Kristen points out that they help build that sense of urgency and panic. The pace of it, and the length of the chapters works really well.
Yeah, I mean, after a while, it started to feel like anytime I had a chapter break or a break to a flashback, it was like grabbing air. Like it started to feel like the structure itself was starting to feel asphyxiating,
Yeah. Anthro Girl asking, how did you know which questions you wanted to ask during the research, or did you just let the experts talk? Sounds like a bit of the latter, just them.
At the beginning, it was really broad. Yeah. I was like,
what could he do?
How big is it?
Yeah.
I mean, the first question was what kind of whale,
Yeah.
Phil probably answered that in your book. And then it was how big is it? And then turned out it was way smaller than I thought. It was like a sleeping bag, essentially.
And multiple stomachs and gullets.
I didn't know. I didn't know anything. What does it feel like? What does it smell like? How hot it is? And a lot of these things, the experts hadn't even really thought of before. Like they were like, "What? How hot would it be in there? Like, why would they have ever even bothered to think that? And
they must have really enjoyed this.
Oh, they loved it. I mean,
yeah, totally.
Yeah, they were just these three people were just. I mean, the small credit goes to me for asking the questions, but really most of the genius ideas came from them, even though they didn't know they were genius ideas. They were just responding to.
Yeah, right.
I would say, what happens? What's in the second stomach? Can you get into the second stomach? It's got some acid and some beaks, and I was like, aha, there's beaks in there. You say, and then, it was like that. It was like shining a little flashlight at a bit at a time and asking about what I would see, what I would touch, what it would smell like. These kind of interesting things that they hadn't thought
Yeah.
heard about because it's not that useful to them.
Yeah, he needed very little. I mean, what did you have? A sock, Brillo pads, and some batteries. I mean, it was like
Yeah.
it was just and you see those early on, and you have this sense. I wonder if anything. What's he going to do with the Brillo pads? We had a question. How interested in? This is Kathleen. Were you interested in whales and marine biology beforehand, or was this? It sounds like everything was kind of new.
Yeah, it was new. I had nothing against whales, sure, certainly, but it was not a passionate subject of mine.
Are you still diving? I know you took scuba.
No. I mean, I learned to scuba dive just for the book. I'm not a strong swimmer at all. I'm not much of an ocean person. I grew up in Iowa and continue to live in the landlocked Midwest. So oceans were not have never been really a part of my life. So I didn't know anything about oceans. Really, I certainly knew nothing about whales. This was all, and of course now I get whale gifts every other week. So my house is full of whale stuff now.
And you got a whale tattoo, I believe.
I do. I did get
It's
one.
gorgeous.
Yeah,
Look at that.
Yeah.
Sperm whale.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
That one I did, and I got my Chicago Whales hat, which was an old baseball team that kind of merged with the Cubs back in the day.
That's hilarious. The whales for Chicago.
It doesn't make any sense. It was
Doesn't
like
make
a
any
public.
sense.
They got the name
Yeah.
by just doing a public poll, and that's what
Yeah.
the Chicagoans wanted.
I was gonna say, is it like one of those teams that moved cities, like the Lakers?
Oh, right. That
to
makes
be in
sense.
LA,
Nope.
Yeah. It used to be at San Diego or something.
Minnesota. They used to be the Minnesota Lakers. We have one more. Another question from Leanne.
Yes.
Who is Connor Gallagher, and why is he important to both your research and your selection of Monterey as a dive site?
Is this Connor Gallagher's mom asking this? No, Connor Gallagher was very, very key to the book. He was someone I spoke to. Tom Mustel. Do you know Tom Mustel at all, Mary? Or is that someone?
No.
So he was another guy who, a diver and a filmmaker and an author. He wrote a book that came out a couple years ago called "How to Speak Whale." And he didn't end up in the mouth of a whale, but he got landed on by a cresting whale and almost
Landed
died.
on by what?
But a whale sort of came out of the water and landed on him. And
Oh, wow. Like that video yesterday.
yeah, similar, yeah. So anyway, long
Wow.
story short, Tom, I was talking to him about these kind of whale stuff, and he said, "You really need to talk to Connor Gallagher." I see my picture is frozen, but I think I'm still talking. Okay, and he's a guy I worked with before, and if you need a diving expert, and I was looking for a diving expert at that point, he's a really good guy, and he hooked me up with Connor. And at that point, I hadn't decided where the book was going to be set. I wanted it to be in America, ideally, but didn't really know where the whale hotspots were. And Connor lives in Monterey, and he's a diver and an underwater videographer, and a lot of things. And he said, "Look, I would set it right here in Monterey, and I would specifically suggest Monastery Beach because it's got this drop off, and it's a very dangerous beach, and people have this nickname for it, Mortuary Beach, which sounded to him sort of cinematic." And he was right about all those things. And I really liked, given the sort of religious allusions in the text, I like the fact that there's a monastery that looks over the beach. And I went out there while I was writing the book and visited it, and it's just like, just seeing in person is just perfect. And then Connor did the dive for me. He did the dive that's in the book. He did it twice and videotaped it the whole way. So it's very rare when an author has, until the whale swallows them anyway, an inch, a foot by foot, like record of what you're writing about. So I could just watch his videos and sort of describe what I was seeing. So that was, obviously extremely helpful.
Yeah, very much so. I wanted to ask, like the central relationship of the book, as father and son, was that something that grew out of, you needed a teenager, sort of led you to, a teenager and parents, or is there a more personal element to yourself and your own dad?
Yeah, all that stuff is true. Everything you just said. There was as I said, there's sort of an element of, I think a teenager might have the most powerful relationship might be with a parent, or the most problematic relationship might be with a parent. So that made sense to me. And I'd written a couple books years ago that were very much about fathers and sons, and I kind of thought I'd gotten that out of my system, because it is a major issue in my life. My dad's not, I grew up in Iowa, so my dad's not a whale,
Yeah.
a seaman in that sense, but he's a big hunter. So hunting was his passion. So and there are some similarities between
Yeah.
me and him. And I was someone who didn't want, just like Jay doesn't want to really
Yeah.
dive. I didn't want to
Yeah.
kill things.
Yeah.
So
Is
yeah,
your dad's is he still alive? Has he read the book?
yeah, he is. He has read it.
He has.
Yeah, and he says he likes it. Which was nice and generous of him.
Yeah. He didn't
uh,
ask any questions like,
No,
is this about me?
no, he didn't. Because really, I don't want to draw too close a parallel here.
Yeah.
Mitt goes beyond the pale, in a
Yeah.
way
Yeah.
that, my dad.
Yeah.
So,
We had a question here that was interesting about the Steinbeck that you included. It said, this is from Kristen. Are you a fan, or was it just the right fit for a Monterey
yeah, I mean, it's a
book set in Monterey? Yeah.
little of both. I mean, there was either no Steinbeck in it or very little Steinbeck until I visited Monterey.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can't walk 2 feet without seeing something about Steinbeck. So it's on like all the road signs and stuff. So I was like, all right. So there's and specifically Cannery Row. So that was the world telling me, oh, I need to read Cannery Row. And I did go through a heavy Steinbeck phase, I don't know, 15 years ago, but I hadn't really thought about him in a long time. So I read Cannery Row with an eye for how could this relate to the book. And I think once you go into something with an eye toward how is this like this, you could pick 2 random things. How is this Julia Roberts movie like this death metal album? And if you just watch them and listen, your intelligent brain is going to start to draw connections, whether they really are there or not.
Yeah.
So I read Cannery Row and started seeing how, okay, I could see how this would be the Bible for this father who is kind of fiercely anti-religious, and how it could sort of be the thing that guides him through the world as religion guides others.
Yeah. I think, Davey, do we have a sketch?
Yeah, I was gonna say you just spoiled the quiz, Daniel. It was all about Julia Roberts movies. So no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. We got something special for the quiz. So one of our peculiars, I may have spoiled it a little at the beginning, but one of our peculiars is a big scuba diver fan. And he wanted to share a video of his most recent trip scuba diving. So here's one of our peculiar scuba diving.
Cool.
I know you're going to be surprised to find out about this, but Kenobi is actually a huge fan of scuba diving. And here he is on his trip to the Bahamas. He wanted to show you some of the sights that he saw. He loved just, laying down and just floating in the water, taking in the fish around him. Really an observant dog, an observant scuba diver. Oh, sometimes you can get a little hungry underwater. Sometimes little snacks float by as he tries to get one. You gotta be careful. Stay off that coral reef, Kenobi. And just stay calm with the ocean. Watch the fish swim by. Really appreciate it. Thank you. I was gonna try to put a little scuba mask on him, but I don't know. It was more an experiment to see how long I can get my dog to sit in front of a green screen. Than
I think you should have done the scuba mask. I recently saw somebody, it was July 4th. You can get noise canceling headphones that fit a chihuahua, for the fireworks.
Oh yeah, they need them.
Yeah, it's hilarious. It works, I guess.
So there you go. It's been a while since the peculiars got to see Kenobi, so I figured I'd make a little video for you.
I loved it.
Thank you. It was great.
It was very meditative.
It was.
I didn't even get to see the comments. Let's see. Sadie wants to hear about your dog in the background, Daniel. Is that a dog or a cat back there hanging out?
I actually have 2 dogs in the house. That little tiny one there, about 5 pounds, is That's Bunny. He's asleep right now. And then I've got a slightly bigger guy. I'll lift him up. Wake up! Wake up! And this is Merv. He's just like a
Merv.
little spaniel dog. These guys,
Hi, Merv.
they hate books. They're not interested in books at all.
Well, there's going to be a movie soon, so perhaps Merv will
Yeah, they're okay
enjoy
with movies. Yeah.
the movie. This is I'm very excited because I've been, I remember back when they were just talking about optioning it or whatever, and you're like, it's gonna be like, how are you gonna have film inside it's like a sleeping bag? And I'm like, they did it. They've done it for what The Martian was. It was a limited space. They could do it for this, and now they're going to. That's pretty. Where are they at?
Well, we finished the script, and then
I think this is in reference to your dog.
oh my god,
Yeah.
yeah. No, dogs are more important than movies. I agree. Yeah, the script is done, and then we recently got through sort of the art, concept art. So before you can really send a script like this, I think, to actors and the representatives, they kind of want to know, what is this going to look like, right?
Yeah.
So we had a lot of concept art, just sort of what the stomach will look and feel like, and all that stuff.
Yeah, that must have been so interesting. What a fun challenge for somebody to create that space in a way that it's believable and it's, but you can see what's going. Yeah, that's gonna.
It was a lot of me saying smaller, smaller.
Yeah.
Because of course, not knowing less than I do about whale biology. It started out with like cavernous spaces. I was like, no.
Yeah, maybe more like Apollo 13. Like that.
Yeah.
Level of cramped. Yeah.
And it's interesting because Ron Howard's one of the producers of Whalefall.
Is that right? Wow.
And I do think that scene in Apollo, where back on Earth and they're kind of spilling out all this gear onto a table and saying, this is what they have up there to work with. So we have to find a way to. I feel like that might have been an inspiration in a way for.
I would think, same kind of thing. Yeah.
Girl, of course, asked the important question: and who is going to play the whale?
Extensive casting, countrywide casting call for the best whale.
I feel like Mitt is the role. I mean, somebody's really going to get to chew the scenery there. Someone's really going to get to lean in.
Who would you want for Mitt? You must hate this question.
Well, I mean, I can't really answer it because what if it's someone else?
Oh yeah.
No.
I will say, speaking of Mitt, a very, very early question or comment from Kristen. She said the audiobook was incredibly intense, maybe the most animated I've ever heard a narrator. And we were talking about a little bit pre-show. You haven't heard it yet.
Yeah, I mean, I always listen to a tiny snippet of the audio. It's, as Mary would tell you, once you're done with the book, you're done. You don't want to go. You don't want
unless you yourself are doing the audio, then of course you have to listen to all of it.
Yeah. Yes, unless you're doing the audio. There was one time where I wrote a book that wasn't a sequel to another book, but it interacted with it, and so instead of rereading the book, I listened to it. So I've listened to one of my audiobooks, and I will say it made me like the book more. I always thought it was kind of a flawed. Something about the book was unsatisfying to me, but filtered through another layer of an actor, essentially, it was kind of nice in a weird way, but I haven't done it since.
Yeah. Your narrator, I mean, he does great with the whole book, but when he's doing Mitt speaking to Jay in the whale's stomach, I mean, where are you? I mean, he really leans into it and gets really gravelly, and it's fun.
He's done most of my books, so we worked together probably 10 times or something. So.
And this one's got a lot of good sound effects, I'm sure. The whale's heart and the whale echo, the noises that the whale makes, and it must be.
It's one of the things that I'm most excited about for the movie. Actually, is the sound.
Yeah,
because you really are in a space where, if you wanted to, you could hear the heartbeat sort of rattling your bones, or the lungs even breathing in and out. So.
Yeah.
Right.
We've got a Sarika, is it? Wait.
Yes, Sarika Davies.
I thought I wanted to audition to do my own audiobook. Doing the copy edits earlier this year, I decided no effing way. It's a lot of work to do your own, but it was fun. I really enjoyed. I did my last one. I really enjoyed it.
How long did it take you, Mary, to do it?
Well, I would only do it half day. I couldn't do more than 4 hours, like because my voice would just give out. So it was 2 weeks. It took 2 weeks, half day. Yeah.
I can tell you from editing and producing one, you almost feel terrible because you have to get every inflection right. You're that first line of defense. You gotta be like, nope, read it again. Nope, go back. Yeah. So
yeah, the director I had, it was during COVID, so the director was in LA. So I'm just hearing him in my headphones, but he was great. Wow. It was it ended up, it was really fun. So somebody's got to be policing you all the time. You know what? You sound like you're tired. Let's take a break, or whatever. It's quite an undertaking. Yeah.
Oh, Brandy's in the chat. She's still with us.
I'm deeply impressed. You will have a movie. By the way, I get loads of attention, but no hits.
One day, Brandy. One day.
Let's see what else.
Do we have? We did have another question from Leanne.
Yeah, I think I missed. I think I skipped something.
I threw it up on the screen for you.
Oh, okay. It's very small. Can you elaborate on MTV Entertainment's philosophy about book publishing as part of a pipeline to a movie? Yeah.
No, I can't. It was, I don't know how they operate. We retained our, film rights as is typical. So I actually don't. I don't know.
So MTV, they were the publishers.
Yeah, and so yeah, which is it's more or less. This is inside baseball, but it's more or less Atria, which is part of Simon and Schuster. But under this one editor, if he was the editor of your book, it was sort of called MTV Books. It's not really neither here nor there as far as I'm concerned. I'm just writing the book. But yeah, there's some publishing details for you.
Yeah.
I think you're in the right spot for inside baseball. I think a lot of the peculiars like seeing behind the curtain there. Yeah.
When are we supposed to do the quiz, Davey? Is there?
We can jump into the quiz while they peculiars. If you have any more questions, if you want to know any more about Whalefall, jump in there, or any of Daniel's other work. I'm sure Daniel would be willing to answer any questions you have while we got him here for the hour. And to give you time, we'll jump into the quiz here now. Clearly quizzing you about whales, like you've done your homework on whales. There was nothing I was going to ask you about a whale that's not in the book. Right. So I decided to go with the other half of the book. And this quiz is about bad dads. So these are the worst movie dads I could find. And of course, it's a subjective scale. I'm sure the peculiars out there might have a movie that they think has a worse dad in it, but I picked 3. So these are 3 of the worst movie dads, and we'll see how you do. I know Mary's a big fan of these quizzes. We went back and looked at the last time we quizzed Mary, and apparently we quizzed her about Yogi Bear episodes. So we get a little bit easier quiz here. The peculiars will help you. They'll be answering in the chat, so they'll be helping along. So the first worst movie dad I could think of was Royal Tenenbaum from the movie The Royal Tenenbaums. And Royal may be a bad dad who abandoned his family and then tried to win them back by lying about a cancer diagnosis. But he does try his best to connect with his grandsons by taking them on an adventure involving, is it A, trespassing and buying marijuana? Is it B, drunk driving and prostitution? Or is it C, shoplifting and dogfighting?
Oh, boy. And I only seen this movie once when it first came out. So we're talking decades here. I'm going to pick the option that I hope is the answer because it's the most entertaining to me. And that would definitely be a shoplifting and dogfighting.
Yeah. All right. So he's going with C. Kristen jumps in. Yes, C. She's pretty confident in her answer. Mary, have you seen this one? Do you have it?
My husband and I just rewatched Royal Tenenbaums like 3 weeks ago. So yeah, go with C.
All right. Leanne says C as well. The answer is yes, shoplifting and unfortunately dogfighting.
Wow.
Quite the way to bond with your grandsons, right?
Yeah.
Even when he's trying, he's still the worst dad. All right, moving on to worst dad number 2. More obscure dad, but definitely not an obscure movie. Denethor in Lord of the Rings. You may remember him from the later movies. Is a father driven by fear and grief, played by the legendary actor John Noble. He orders his eldest son Boromir to travel to the Council of Elrond and take the One Ring an evil move there. And he orders his younger son, Faramir, on a suicide mission to blank. Is it A, ride to the Black Gate, a direct assault on Mordor, B, reinforce the men at Helm's Deep, or C, retake the ruined city of Osgiliath held by Mordor's forces?
Okay, so I've seen these movies. I know it's not A. That doesn't make any sense. No one directly assaults Mordor, I wouldn't think.
Brandy says, "Oh, that guy sucks."
I feel like I remember this character too. Was he eating tomatoes at some point?
Yes. Yeah. And Anthro Girl says, and he eats tomatoes really grossly.
Yeah. Boy, what a great character choice that was.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's B, because if I'm remembering what Helm's Deep is, that's when the wizard, not Elrond.
Gandalf.
Gandalf.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go C again.
He's going C again. Brandy's guessing C. Anthro Girl also guessing C. The answer is yes. C again. Retake the ruined city. I was glad. Yeah. He also when Faramir comes back and he's very wounded, he builds like the funeral pyre for him, and he's like gonna burn him alive. Yeah. So I was like, is he evil enough? And then I started thinking more about the movie, and I was like, no, he's a pretty bad dad. All right, your final bad dad, maybe the most classic worst father of all time. We're talking about Darth Vader.
Mm-hmm.
So, spoiler warning for The Empire Strikes Back. It's kind of the key plot twist of the movie, but Darth Vader reveals he is Luke Skywalker's father through the now iconic line, "No, I am your father." However, that is not the line that actor David Prowse said on the day of filming. The only people that knew the plot twist were George Lucas, Mark Hamill, and one other I think Lawrence Kasdan were the only three people that knew the plot twist as they were filming it.
Mm-hmm.
So to protect the plot twist, he said blank. Did he say Obi-Wan Kenobi is your father? B, Han Solo is your father? Or C, Qui-Gon Jinn is your father?
Well, there's no way it can be C. There's no way Lucas knew who Qui-Gon Jinn was back then.
There weren't many other fathers. I could have said Chewbacca is your father, but I didn't think you'd go for that one either.
So it's A or B. I have trouble believing that Mark Hamill, upon hearing Han Solo is your father, would have just laughed on set. So I'm gonna go with A.
Going A. I think Kevin might be guessing B. Leanne's A with a question mark. Brandy says, I for real watched this with someone who did not know. The answer is yes, it is A.
Hey.
Obi-Wan Kenobi is the father. And even the actor David Prowse literally did not know the plot twist until the premiere of the movie. And he's sitting in the theater waiting for the line he thinks he read. And then, I am your father.
I mean, I think if Luke heard Obi-Wan Kenobi as father, he would just be like, great. That's cool.
Yeah. So there weren't many other male character, really male father figure characters when I thought about it. As I was thinking about my, misleading questions, my misleading answers there.
Well, I demolished Mary's Yogi Bear.
You did. You did. I am shamed.
You never know. It's the book that leads me to the quiz. It's not the other way around. So I
and Mitt's one of those fathers that you really change your mind about him.
And I did too. I mean, that's the crazy thing is that in writing the book, I was pretty hard against Mitt at the beginning, and then
me too.
I kind of came to understand him along with Jay.
Yes,
which I think which doesn't often happen when you write. Yeah. You change your own opinion about a character. So I thought that was
so cool.
Maybe the only time that's ever happened to me, which is really
And he comes through. I mean, the Mitt. Maybe it's something about speaking through a whale, but something it's almost Darth Vader. His sentences are short, and he just gets right to the heart of it. He's not ranting like the Mitt that we meet in the beginning, who's just ranting against the tourists and the this and the that. He's so real, and he's just cutting to it, and it's so great. Yeah.
Did the other human characters have human characters? Like, did they have inspiration from other things? Huey or the sisters and the mom?
No, I mean all the characters are Jonah references in one way or the other, as far as like their names go. So if one really wanted to dive into Jonah, you could sort of learn. It's not important, but there's like other levels to what's kind of going on if one cared. But
Wait,
you don't.
Jonah? They're Jonah. Did you say Jonah as in Jonah and the whale? The biblical dude?
Yeah.
Oh, I need to read my Bible. More.
Well, you don't have to. But yeah, I mean, it's like sort of like with Moby Dick or
Yeah.
Jonah. There's certain things that people are going to bring to the book. I knew
Yeah.
that, and so I decided for the scholars out there to sort of make hay of it in one
Yeah.
way. If you wanted to dig into, you could.
Yeah.
But no, not beyond that. I mean, there were. This is truly by happenstance. I told you there was Mitt and my dad have similarities, but I actually do have two sisters. One of them has passed on, but who one older and one younger. And the book, Jay has two sisters, and in the book they have the exact jobs that my sisters have, but that was completely not. It's almost coincidental. I needed the sisters to be in the book to provide certain bits of knowledge. Then they happen to be the bits of knowledge my actual sisters had.
Right. One was the environmental.
One knew things about throats.
Yeah. Oh.
One knew things about. Well, I don't even want to say what the other one knows about.
I think last time we did something like this, I completely gave away the end of. It was the one where the George Romero, where you the zombie one where you finished. Yeah, I think I said something about the end, and you're like, so
we don't really worry about spoiler warnings too much on the Peculiar Book Club because we're usually doing nonfiction books, so there's really not an ending to spoil usually. Yeah. But for the most part, most of them I think I've listened or read. Oh, so this next question from Antho Girl, do we want to go into light spoilers here? I guess her question here is a little bit, but.
No, I can do that without spoilers.
Okay.
I don't think it's really a spoiler at all because it's the answer is unclear. I intentionally played it close, so you could.
So for the audio listeners, for the podcast listeners listening, the question from Anther Girl is the whale Mitt the real Mitt, or is it just Jay's mind running away with him, from your perspective?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I intended it to be read either way. So if you wanted it to just be Jay's under the influence of stomach methane and he's injured and panicked and low on oxygen and seeing his life flash before his eyes as he's getting ready to die and is guilty and all that stuff, I think it's reasonable to say that it's made up. But why not the other way?
Yeah. So I like that it was ambiguous. You could take it in either direction. I really like that.
I mean, that's got to be fun as an author, right? To not give answers, to write like that.
Yeah, I think in this case it just made sense. I mean, in a book where I'm really trying to hew to sort of science and biology, especially, I didn't want to leap full-footed into the supernatural without there being a possible realistic explanation as well.
So speaking of fun things to write, Soreka asked, what was the most fun bits to write and what were the hardest? If you can answer without the spoilers.
I mean, I don't know that any of it was, well, to be a very specific sort of granular answer is the stuff involving the larynx was really, really difficult. It was just really hard for me to understand the biology of it and where it was in the throat, how big it was, how it works. I spent hours on phone calls and Zooms with Joy Wiedenberg, one of my experts, and she had sort of a fossilized smaller whale larynx that she'd hold up to the screen, and then I had
so confusing.
So confusing. And I had this giant foam roller, like an exercise foam roller that I was pretending was the giant version of the larynx, and I was like, could you hang on to it? And we would sort of
because it kind of it's two parts that and stuff goes between. It's
really confusing.
Yeah, I did a book review of it's a book about the human voice. So I read an entire book about the voice box, the larynx, and I still have no idea how it works.
Luckily, as I mentioned before, one of my sisters was a or is sort of a speech pathologist, and so she helps
Oh, yeah.
a lot of elderly people who lose their voice from strokes and stuff, so to relearn to speak. And so she kind of tried to, the best as she could, explain to me what a human larynx is like, which is not the same, but in the neighborhood. So that was the hardest thing. The hardest part was overall, though, was how to know when to put the flashbacks in and where to put them, because ideally you want him to have flashbacks that interact with what is going on right then.
Yeah.
So I might have had various flashbacks that I wanted to do, but figuring out where to put them and what information is
Yeah. You always had something that triggered it.
trigger it, and then plant
Yeah.
things that will pay off later. So the timing of all that, and because I have everything intercutting so often, it was really a pile of dominoes. If I decided to get rid of a flashback or put a new one in, it screwed up the rhythm of everything. And suddenly I was moving 20 chapters around. So that was a pain.
Yeah.
Oh man. Is there, I feel like it's type of stories where someone is in that life or death situation tend to lead themselves to stories of reflection.
Mm-hmm.
Like, did this seem like the perfect marriage? Like when you're stuck in that situation, it's almost human nature to reflect on life and the choices that kind of got you there. And
yeah, I mean, I think for the most part of the book, and whether you're talking about Whalefall or 127 hours or whatever the sort of survival situation is, I think once you kind of accepted you're not getting out, and this is it, like that, I think up till then you're just frantic. You're living at the second that things are happening. But I think when you get to that moment where like this is it, I think that I don't really know, but I'm guessing that's when you, whether you want to or not, you reflect on maybe things that happened or maybe things you'll never get to do. I'm guessing that would be a big one. I think like the missed opportunities. And especially if you're inside, you're essentially inside the father who in life kind of metaphorically swallowed your life because you were so well known. And the answer is yes.
so Kristen is reflecting on the fact that it's a teenage boy in there. So she says, how reflective would a teen boy really be? It was a good balance of reflection, but also not accepting the end might be coming.
Yeah, I mean, I had the advantage of him being really quite injured near the end, where there's an element of you're so beaten down and injured that you have to, at least for a while, stop fighting. I think maybe in those moments where there's a sort of an emotional collapse, that's an opportunity. Whereas generally, though, I think Christian is right. I mean, generally, I don't know if I'd limit it to just teen boys, but overall, you're going to fight pretty hard, even if it's just stabbing madly at the whale. You're going to do something.
Yeah.
Did you always know it was going to be right around that age? Did you kind of move Jay's age around a little bit, like high school, college? Where's he going to be?
Yeah, but it was never too dramatic. It was sort of like you want someone who's more or less physically mature, but still, in that skinny, lanky phase. So there's maybe a 5-year window or so there where it could have been anywhere. For various other plot reasons, I found it interesting that he was in high school where he still had to go to school, which made it more interesting. There's a part in the book where he leaves home and is staying with his friends, and that wouldn't make it. That's uninteresting if he's in college. Of course, he's already gone. But when you're purposely in the same town as your dad and not living in the same spot as him, and you're avoiding him, that seemed more potent in a way.
I don't know why that seemed more plausible as a California surfer than like in the Midwest.
Oh yeah, right.
I don't know why.
Maybe all the kids out there stay away for a year. I don't know.
If we had Leanne had one more.
Yeah.
Sort of a genre question. It says you write for kids, teens, adults, various media, graphic novels, comics. Why the variety? Because you can.
Because it's variety. Yeah. Right. Yeah, I find I'm very prolific. I generally have multiple.
You're disgustingly prolific.
Well,
Sorry.
listen, that has its downside in the real world. But professionally, yes, prolific, and it helps not only refresh the palette to do a bunch of different kinds of things. It also makes publishing more of a possibility. Like if I have 3 adult horror novels, let's say, they're gonna have to be spaced out a year apart. But if I've got an adult horror novel and then a middle grade something else and a comic book here and a kids book there, and you can sort of publish more. And that being my natural pace, it helps that I've been able to move around a lot.
What did this took you like 6 months to write this book? Was
This
fast.
it was about 4 months, but that doesn't which is about on pace for me, but that doesn't include maybe 3 months of research at the top. So you add that in, it's 7 months, which I understand still seems fast for most people, but that's
Yeah.
about on pace for me. And it is a short book. It's almost my shortest book. There's it's
As opposed to Zebulon Finch, which is three volumes,
yeah, it's like
all of which I loved.
2,000 pages.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Peculiars, it's been a blast. Thank you, Mary. You fantastic job hosting us. Daniel, any final words from our 2 fantastic authors?
I mean, I don't know if I would imagine because it's a book club, most people who are tuning in have read it, but if not, absolutely go and read it because it really is an amazing read.
No final words for me except I didn't get to show off my diving model.
Oh.
Which I used. I was kept in front of my desk, so I know what position the diver was in at any given time. So
Oh yeah. That's great.
As he moved, I would move the model so I would understand where his arms and legs
Oh
were.
yeah. For a second, I thought it was a Daniel Kraus action figure.
If only. Yeah, this guy's ripped.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you for joining us at a place where, as Brandy says, if you're weird, you're family.
You got the blue bottle blues when you wake up in the night. Don't make a big mistake, 'cause you can never make it right. When you reach out for the vial, feel the ridges in the glass. It's a matter of survival, baby. Better watch your back. There is no antidote. There